to thank Jacob for last week. He covered the message. I had said that I would do it, but I wasn't able to. Thanking the Lord that about a week ago or so, I had gotten COVID, and I didn't think it was going to hit me that hard, but it took a while to recover. But thanking that I'm a lot better now. Just try to bear with me tonight a little bit. I've lost my voice as of the last couple of days, just barely recovering, trying to get it back. But until then, I will be drinking a lot of water and just trying not to cough so much up here and just trying to make everything sound as well as possible. So just please bear with me. I also didn't know this, but there's a drawer here that comes out. I didn't know that. This could have come in really big handy. I didn't know this drawer pulled out right here. I did not. So I like that. That's really cool. Anyways, all right, guys. We're going to start off tonight with, we're going to be in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. We're going to be mostly in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. We're going to be reading almost all of the whole chapter. We're going to stop at a couple of points to go over a couple of things. We're going to read pretty much halfway through the chapter. The message for tonight is titled, One Simple Word, and it's titled Time. I'm going to be talking a little bit tonight about the word time. And it's a big thing for a lot of us. Let me ask this question real quick, if you guys want to think about it for a second. Who here has a lot of time on their hands? Does someone here have a lot of time to give? I see Nathan raising his hand back there, and I like that. He's being honest. Anyone here have a lot of time to give out? Anyone sitting here thinking, I just don't have anything to do all day long. I really wish I could find something to do. I don't know what to do all day long. I'm just bored out of my mind. Who here is still going to school? Anyone here in school, whether it's high school, college, school? Yeah, anyone here going to school? I can tell you it does take up a lot of time. My wife and I both work at a school. If you guys didn't know that, my wife and I both work at a school. So we're there from 7 a.m. in the morning all the way till sometimes about 6 o'clock in the evening, just working and just, really, really doing a lot. So I can tell you there's a lot of times where we feel like we don't have a lot of time. And so that's what the message is going to be about tonight, is a little bit about time management, a little bit about what does time mean to us, how do we feel towards time, what is the concept behind it, like thinking like just overall, is there something that I'm doing wrong in my life when it comes to time? Is there something that I'm doing right? Is it something that I can try to do a little bit better at? What should my perspective be towards time? It's a four-letter word, but it pretty much runs our everyday life, because without it, we wouldn't be going through the everyday motions that we do go through. And I can tell you one thing that becomes a lot more and more interesting as we go on more and more throughout the days. I think it's become more, if you're on social media, if you're on Instagram, if you are on Facebook, if you are on TikTok, you're going to see a lot of people try to tell you something about being able to manage your time, being able to have the least amount of time, like use up the least amount of time in your day while making the most money. Being able to use up the least amount of your time while being able to do the most things. Something a little personal. I told my wife I wouldn't be sharing too much tonight about something personal but, that we have in our lives, but I'll share one little thing that's really personal. There's been times where we've been watching on YouTube several influencers, and these people live a very active life. They live a very active lifestyle, and we like to watch them. We like to see what do they do for workouts? What do they do for, one thing that we've jumped onto is 5Ks. We've done one 5K, okay, so not a lot, but we've done one 5K, and we've really enjoyed it, and we've signed up for more in the future. And so we watch a lot of these YouTubers, and we think, okay, what do they do? And the one thing I always tell her is, I can't, and I know I probably shouldn't say it this way, but I mean, it's me being honest. I get kind of jealous at times, a little envious of the fact that I watch them wake up and they complain about the fact that they're saying, this morning I got up and it was 8 o'clock and I just felt like I couldn't do much in the morning. And I'm like, 8 o'clock, I had to get up by 5:45 to get ready for work. I'm not leaving work till 7 in the evening. I'm getting home, dinner still needs to be made. We still got to clean the house. We got to get ready for the next day. I still got to go back to work. What do you mean you're having trouble getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning? And they're talking about, okay, I'm going to hit my first workout for the day at 9 o'clock. The gym is empty. I'm here doing this. And I'm thinking about it throughout. And I'm like, what do they do? There's a lot of people on there that'll tell you, you can have that lifestyle. Just follow what we do. And I'm thinking to myself, but is that a really wise way of managing time? Is that a really great way of thinking about time? Because after a while, it gets to me. I start thinking to myself, is there something wrong with my job? Is there something wrong with the job I've taken on? Is there something wrong with the life that I'm living? And I start to doubt it. Is there something wrong with me coming on Wednesday nights? Maybe I need to do other stuff on Wednesday nights instead of being here. Maybe I could do that. Maybe Sundays, I can go Sunday morning to church and I don't got to worry about going Sunday evening. I already went one time in the day. Most people just go one time. They don't got to worry about, they don't even worry about Sunday school. You can worry about Sunday morning service, the main service, the one that they feel like is the most populated, heavily concentrated, feel-good message, and then I'll just skip the evening because I got stuff to do in the evening. And so going on about this whole thing about time, I want us to look at Ecclesiastes just a little bit because I heard a message on this a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, from this service that my wife and I both watch online. It's called The Porch. It's a young adult service, and they talked a little bit about this Ecclesiastes chapter 3. When I heard it, it brought something to me, and I thought, wait a minute, I think he's saying something, and I think you could also be saying something else as well. So we're going to jump right into Ecclesiastes chapter 3, just to go a little bit about, okay, what about time? How should we think about time in our life? What can we do with the time that we have? Time management, all these different things that might just like start to introduce these things to us and start to get us to go, okay, wait a minute, now I know what's going on. So in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, we're going to start with the first verse. And I know it's a very depressing book of the Bible, just to keep it, that way. But I think it brings a lot too. So we're going to start with Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And he starts here by saying, I'm reading in the KJV right now, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. So what profiteth hath he that worketh in that wherein he laboreth? So right here, I'm going to really quick just switch over really quick to, I'm going to show you right here really quick where he says, in verse 9, one more time, I'm reading from the ESV, he says, what gain has the worker from his toil? Okay, he says, what gain has the worker from his toil? We're going to stop there really quick. I'm going to go into verse 10. I have seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. In KJV, that reads right here, just to go back really quick to put that one in there, in that verse, I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. So I'm going to stop right there really quick. And my first point of tonight is going to be, if you read from verse 1 all the way down to about verse 8, you're going to see that point number 1 that I have is, there's a time for everything. First and foremost, we need to realize that there is a time for everything. So sometimes you're living your everyday life and you're going through it and you're thinking to yourself, do I have time? Do I make time? Lord, sometimes I don't have enough time in my everyday life to do what I want to do. I don't have enough time to be able to perform what I want to do. And we start to get into this perspective and we start to tell ourselves, there's not enough time. What can I cut out? There's not enough time. What can I do to make things better? As we're thinking to ourselves, 24 hours is not enough time in a day to be able to do things. If we spend about 7 hours of that time sleeping, hopefully 7, sometimes it's only 6, sometimes it's only 5, sometimes it's less, and that's not good. But sometimes it's a lot less than the 7 hours that we're looking at. But even with those 7 hours, sometimes my wife and I have talked about it and we're thinking, can you imagine if you gave up some of those hours of sleep, what more you could accomplish? And we think like that sometimes. Sometimes we think like that. I'll give up some to be able to get some. But we have to realize something that he's talking through here is he's saying there is a time for everything to happen. And if you look at what he's saying here, he goes back and forth. One thing that you'll notice in comparison is he says there's a time to be born and a time to die. If you go a little further, there's a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to laugh, a time to mourn. There's a time to weep and a time to laugh. You'll see there's a time to live and a time to keep, a time to cast away, a time to get. Everything goes back and forth and it's up. And he's saying, Solomon is saying there's a balance that happens in life. A lot of times we live our life, we start thinking, it's because I'm only going through bad times. I'm only going through the good times. A lot of people I see are going through great times, and I'm going through bad times. But he says here, Solomon is saying, you have to realize something. There's a balance to life. There's a balance that we need to live. There's a balance that we need to bring to our lives. And he says, you're going to have good times. You're going to have bad times. You're going to have them both. He says, it's inevitable. And he's not saying here for the Christian person. He's not saying for the heathen. He's not saying for somebody who's not saved. He's not saying for somebody who pretends to be a Christian. He's just saying in general, there's going to be a time for everything. And when you think about that for a moment, start to really think back on your life and tell yourself, wait a minute, I have had good times. I've had bad times. I've had these two things. So it's true. We're going to have a balance in life. God brings balance to our lives. He brings good and bad. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but he's saying there is a time for both. There is a time for both these things. There is a time for good. There is a time for bad. There is a time to laugh and a time to cry. We've gone through those times before, many times. It doesn't take us many years in our life to live and think, I've had a really bad time right now, or I've been really happy during this time. I can tell you from personal experience, I think one of the happiest times that I've lived through, I can tell you when I was playing sports, like in golf. I can tell you when I got married, the honeymoon that we went on. I can tell you that I've had great times throughout my life in those times, but then I've also had bad times, being fired from a job that I recently, had. Losing a family member of mine, 2 family members of mine that were very close to me. And I can tell you, I've experienced both those things, and it hasn't been, I'm not even, that much older than a lot of us here. And I can tell you it happens either way. So there's going to be good and bad times. We have to realize that. So sometimes we can't stand here. We shouldn't be standing here thinking, Lord, I only go through bad times. I only have bad times in my life. I'm waiting for the good times to come. It feels like that sometimes, but realize God brings balance to our life. God brings balance to what's going on here. There is a time for everything that goes through. So don't forget, there is time. You do have time to live your everyday life, whether it's in the good times or in the bad times. You do have time throughout your everyday life. Sometimes, again, we start to think, I don't have time. There is time. There is plenty of time. All right? We try to make 24 hours feel like 42 hours. We really want to fit everything in there. That's the main focus of tonight, is wondering, where do I go from being able to think, I don't have enough time, I don't have this, to where I can say, why do I feel that? Why do I have that? Something I discovered here when I was reading a commentary on it is just where I'm going to go into my second point right now. He reminds us again, one more time, there is a time for everything. We do have plenty of time to do what we want to do. But here's the second point I want to give you guys is God gives us a sense of time. He gives us a sense. In verse 9, he says, what profit does a man have in his labor? He's basically something that he says, what does he profit from what he does? How does a man profit? How does a person profit from the work that they put in? So you're wondering, how does this work? How does it go on? There's a part in here in Ecclesiastes, when you read on a little bit more, when I go on to I'm going to read on a little bit from verse number 10 and on. He says, I have seen the travail which God has given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. He hath made everything beautiful in his time. Also he has set the world in their hearts, so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from the beginning to the end. I know that there is no good in them, but for a man to rejoice and to do good in his life. And also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of his labor. It is the gift of God. I know that. Whatsoever God doeth, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put into it, nor anything taken from it. And God doeth it, that man should fear before him. That which has been is now, and that which has been has already been. And God required that which is past. I'm going to go on a little bit more, just not on that, but on another version right here. Reads just a little bit more. I'm going to put verse 11. I'm going to start with verse 11. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. I'm going to stop right there really quick, because the sense of time that God gives us is, if we're made in God's image, if we are made in the likeness of God, God is eternal. He is long-lasting. He is forever. So it's no doubt that when I read this in a commentary at some point, when God made us, there's no doubt that he put into us a sense of eternity, a sense of longing for that eternity, a sense of longing for forever, a sense of longing to be with him. In every single person that he's made, he's given us that feeling. He's given us that sensation. So it's no wonder that sometimes we're wondering, how can I get more? How can I do more? How can I use my time more? Don't forget that, again, there's time for everything in your life, but also when you're feeling that moment of, I don't know what I can do with my time, I don't know how to manage my time, I don't know how to work around this time, I want to really try to fit in all these things, I really want to try to do the most I can. Excuse me. Realize that God is giving us a sense of time. He's giving us a sense of eternity. He wants us to see, I want you to feel the fact that you're looking for something more than just the 24 hours in that one day. You are. You're looking for more than just the time you put into work, the time you put in with your friends, the time you get in your hobbies, the time you give to your church, the time you give to an organization, or to wherever you may be doing, whatever you may be doing, he says you have a sense of wanting more. Sometimes, and this is a start of like where I'm thinking about time, again, it's a 4-letter word that really brings us some type of like, sometimes grief, wondering, what do I do with it? How do I do this? And wondering, what does it mean? How does it work? Here, he's telling us we have a sense of being able to see. He says here that God has put eternity in a man's heart, but he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. God leaves a little bit out of it because he says, look for me, find me, search me. I can't give you it all. I'm not going to give you it all, because if I did, you wouldn't be looking for me. And God says, I want you to seek me. I want you to look for me. In that time that you have, look for me. Look for what I can do for you in time. So he's telling us right there that he's saying he put into us something that we're looking for, we're trying for, we want for, we have a sense of it, but we don't fully comprehend it. And sometimes that's why people struggle to manage their time. That's why some people struggle to manage their time, because sometimes we start putting into effort other different things that we want to. We start to look for, again, for me, I'm being honest, sometimes we start looking for, if I skip a workout one day, I'm starting to think to myself, how do I feel? My body feels horrible. My body not feel great. I'm going to put that time into the gym. I'm going to put that time into a workout. I start to feel those things. I start to look for that. And the more, if I start to let that get to me, the more and more I'm going to put more time into that, because I'm looking for that. I'm longing for that. I want that. I want to achieve something. I want to get that. And and he's telling us here, he put us something in here that he wants us to say, well, you need to reach for that. You need to look for that. You want to get that. And that's why a lot of people I think that I've talked to feel like, I don't know what to do with my time. Talk to a lot of people and they'll tell you, I just haven't had time. I haven't had time to do this. I haven't had time to do this. And I just wonder to myself, well, what are they seeking? Are they pushing down that eternal feeling? Are they suppressing that in order to find something else? In order to look for something else? In order to feel comfortable with something else? In order to really feel like I'm accomplishing something else? See, they're not putting in the time for God. They're putting in the time for themselves. And it's no wonder they're falling short every single time. No wonder they're falling short every single point, in their life. Because what are they looking for? What are they searching for? What is their time going towards? It's just going towards emptiness. It's just going towards nothing, absolute nothingness. They're looking for something that benefits themselves instead of looking for something that's going to service God. A lot of people do that. And when he goes on in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, I'm going to start to sort of move away from this and kind of go into other verses, because I want us to kind of see something where, again, he's telling us, you have time in your life to do these things. There is a time for everything. We are going to have times in our life. There is time that we have that we're going to live life. You are going to have your life to live. And he gives us a sense of time. He gives us that sense of being able to find that eternity. But now here comes the question, or here comes the next thing that I want to pull out. And my next point is going to be, you need to redeem the time. What do we do with it now? When you realize, okay, we have the time. I have a sense of wanting that. What do? I'm going to go on to my third point, redeem the time. Take your time. Claim it. Moving on to Ephesians chapter 5. In Ephesians chapter 5, we're going to be from verse 15 to 17. Ephesians chapter 5. So he says in Ephesians chapter 5, let me switch over. It says, see then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. So in here, he's telling us right here, redeem the time. The days are evil. Use your time. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You never know what's going to happen the next day. What do we got to do with our time? Redeem the time. Again, God tells us you're going to have time. You're going to live your life. You're going to have those moments, good and bad. But how do you go through those moments? What are you looking for in those moments? He gives us a sense of time. He tells us, look for me, find me, search for me. Eternity is waiting for you one day. I want you to seek it. And how do we do that? When we're redeeming the time, what are we redeeming it with? Are we looking to redeem it with going out with our friends every Sunday? Are we looking to go out with our friends every Wednesday? Don't realize that it's really important for us to be here on a Wednesday night. And how many times we really try to push people to say, come, sit here. Because this is probably, I won't say probably, I will say this is got to be the best place you can be at on a Wednesday night, because it's going to be a place where you're going to hear something that you probably won't get outside the doors. You won't get outside this place here. And thank God that if you're sitting here, if you're listening online, you're able to hear something that the world will not give you. The world will tell you, go to the gym. The world will tell you, go with your friends. Again, I gave a message on that a while back, looking at friends and fellowship, who you're hanging out with. Go with them. If you're not hanging out with the right crowd, that could be somewhere where you're not redeeming your time correctly and you're wondering, where's my time going to? Towards those people. You could be wondering, am I going to redeem the time with the friends that I want to hang out with? That might not be so great for me. That might not be healthy for me. I might be talking a certain way. I might be acting a certain way. I might start, becoming a different person. Instead of me helping them, they're changing me. Do you redeem the time? They're going to tell you, go to the gym, go hang out with your friends. I want you to go to this party. I want you to come hang out here. It's nothing bad. It's just a party. It's just people. It's just people living life. I knew someone in one time who had told me that they told their kids that they want them to go out there and explore the world, to go find themselves out there, to go find themselves in those times. Well, that's why they're redeeming their time probably to this day, and they're probably still wondering, how come I don't find enough satisfaction in my life when it comes to my time? Why can't I use my time for the best way? Why does it always keep escaping me no matter what? Because their parents had told them, go and find yourself and go do what you want and go be who you want. That's all right. That's okay. That's what they're telling them. So how do you redeem your time? What are you looking for? What are you looking to redeem? Because the Bible clearly says here, walk circumspectly. It's not telling, and he says, not as fools, not as the unwise people, not as people that are going to go and they're going to waste their time. Psalms chapter, have it here, Psalms chapter, let me pull it up right here. Psalms chapter 90, verse 12. We're going to go into Psalms chapter 90, verse 12. I like this one here. It's a really good one. And it goes along with what I'm saying here. Psalms chapter 90, verse 12. He says, so teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Teach us to number our days. Teach us how to go through everyday life. He's praying to the Lord. He's asking the Lord, show us how to live our life. Show us how to go through our everyday lives. So that we can have wisdom. So that we may be able to take that wisdom and apply it to our everyday lives. Again, how are you redeeming your time? How are you looking to find your time? How are you looking to spend your time? Because it says there, let us be able to take that number, help us to number our days, Lord. Help us to be able to figure this out. That way we can apply that wisdom to our lives. So I want to redeem the time, not as fools, because the days are evil, because we know that it can creep up at any point in any time. Something can happen, something can come up, and we don't know how much time we have left. We don't know how much time we still have on that clock sometimes. In an instant, something could happen that stops you from being able to say, whoa. Not to bring up anything about the past from what I've talked about before, but again, my wife and I have had to put that into perspective ourselves. We've had to tell ourselves what happens when it just stops. One day we're working a certain job, and then another day, boom, like it tells us, no, we stop right here in our track, and because someone told us, you're not doing this anymore. You're not going to be here anymore. You're not doing this anymore. That stopped us right there. And we wondered, okay, wait a minute, now where's our time going? And it took a while for us to reflect on that, because we were talking about our time, and we told ourselves we were working this job, and sometimes we were working from 7 o'clock in the morning all the way till about 10 o'clock at night. We found ourselves busy. We stopped doing that, and we still found ourselves wondering, where's the time going to? Where's our time going towards? Like, why don't I have enough time to sit down on the couch? Why don't I have enough time to relax? Why don't I have enough time to breathe? Why can't I talk to my wife? Why can't I talk to my husband? She's thinking that at times as well. Why can't I talk? Like, why are we so busy? Why are we still trying to live like we're doing that previous job before? And we can only come up with one thing. As we talk about it a lot, we're thinking to ourselves, clearly here, are we redeeming our time correctly? Are we redeeming the time that God has given us when he told us, you're going to stop right there. You're not going to go on from there. You're not going to live that life anymore. You're not going to have that job anymore. It clearly showed me, how am I redeeming my time? Where is my time going towards now? Because obviously, when I go, now I'm working from 7 to, let's say, 6. If he cut out 4 hours of that day, where did those 4 hours go? Where did I put those 4 hours in? Did I put it in the right place, or did I put it in the wrong place? Where did I put those 4 hours that he gave me back? He told me, here's an extra 4 hours for you to have. I took away something. We realized God is good. God is great. He took that away. God means that he wants us to do something else. So we sat there and we thought to ourselves, we're going to take advantage of this. But then clearly we sat there for a moment and we were like, wait a minute, those 4 hours are gone. Like we feel like we would have been better off staying on that other job. It feels like we would have probably felt like we had more time. But we're realizing, wait a minute, How do you redeem your time? Where are you putting all that time towards? The days are evil. The days are coming faster and faster times, and you have to be diligent. Proverbs 21:5, last verse that I'll give you before we start wrapping some of this up. Proverbs 21 verse 5. He says, the thoughts of the diligent tend only to plenteousness, but of everyone that is hasty only to want. ESV says, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Right there, think about it. If your time is valuable to you, he says, the diligent have abundance. The diligent, the ones that continue to work, the ones that continue to do the right things, the ones that continue to make that motion, they'll have abundance. But the ones that wait, the ones that waste their time, the ones that don't, that are wasting their time will leave empty. They'll have poverty. They'll have poorness. They'll have nothing. They'll be left in want. They'll be left in emptiness. And guess what? It doesn't always mean the diligent are the ones that are working hard. But guess what? The ones who are hasty, sometimes it feels like, hey, those work hard too. But where are they putting their time into? What are they dumping their time into? They're left with nothing but poverty. So as we start to wrap up tonight, I want us to really think about that. As we start to wrap up, I want us to really think about, where is our time going towards? I saw that in Ecclesiastes, and I told myself, there is a time for everything. There is a time. Look at this. It clearly says it. He's not just saying, oh, you're going to have one season of this, and then you'll have 5 seasons of this, and then 2 more of this, 3 more of that. But God brings a balance to our lives. He says there's a balance to the good and the bad. God is good that way. And then he says there's a glimmer of hope in Ecclesiastes that they say they haven't seen before, but it's because we can't help but think about the fact that God made us in his image. He redeemed us that way. So he says, I give you a sense of eternity so you can look for me, so you can seek me. Why? Because like Ephesians chapter 5 says, the days are evil. Use your time wisely. Use your time for me. So again, I just want us to really feel like, sometimes we feel like we're in a rush. Sometimes we know, you're probably sitting here tonight and you're thinking, I'm a little overwhelmed. I have a lot going on. I got school. Maybe I got sport practice. I got to go to practice. Or I got cheer. Or I have a club that I got to go to. I know for myself, it's a lot of my full-time job plus a part-time job that we work within the school. It's a program, an after-school program that we're doing that works with the elementary level kids in all athletics, some sports and different types of things like that. So we work with that program, and I can tell you right now, as I think about that, sometimes maybe you have that like I do. Maybe you have like two jobs. Maybe you have one that takes up a lot of time. Maybe you have, like I said, school, you have college to worry about. You have different things that you have to really feel like they're in your grasp, and you're wondering, I just need to slow down. Or maybe some of us are sitting here thinking, I kind of need to speed things up. I want to do things. I want to do more. In slowing down, I want to do more. I want to be able to feel God more. I want to be able to hear him. I want to be able to tell myself, I have time. I bring this up because, again, it's been a conversation that we've talked about for a while, because we're wondering at times, what is time? How does this time thing work? I mean, do we have enough of it? Do we, sometimes feel like, what am I doing? That's the overall thing. No, nothing more complicated than sometimes we're wondering, what am I doing? Like, what's going on? So I can just tell you tonight, guys, I just want us to really think about that. Feel that for a moment there of wondering, where is my time going towards? How am I redeeming that time? Believe me, there is a lot of time. There is time in the day. There is time that we have. But how we use it determines if it's a lot or not. How we redeem that time. God has given us the time, the sense of time. Redeem the time. Tonight we're going to do something a little different. As I start to close out, we're going to just take a couple minutes. I really want us to go into prayer for a moment. We're going to give a couple minutes. Naomi has something that she can put up here. I asked her to put up a song to play while we go into a little bit of time to ourselves, just a little bit of time to bow our heads and pray, or to just sit there and just think for a little bit. To just do that. It's a 3-minute song, something that, that my wife and I both said, hey, we want to put that out there just to give a little bit right now, some time tonight to get into prayer. Maybe you need that 3 minutes of that prayer. 3 minutes to be able to sit here and think, I want to just talk to God. I want to find out, where's my time going? Lord, can I redeem that time? Can I get that time back towards you? Can I do that? So we're just going to play something really quick, guys.